Guthrie-photography-online.com coming at you with a new video today. Second video of the week, and I hope you enjoy this one. Today we are going to talk about why you would shoot camera raw versus JPEG on your shoots, and why I think it is important to shoot raw 100% of the time. No exceptions. You should never have your camera in JPEG. So let's get started. So first things first, let's explain camera raw. Camera raw is an uncompressed file that allows the sensor to read every single piece of data that comes in. So you take a picture, you snap a picture onto your camera. So that sensor is going to take that data, process it, and show you a preview on the back of your camera, and then send it to your memory card. That's how that works. So when it sends it to the memory card, it's going to ship all the data that the sensor received send all the data that the sensor received onto that memory card, leaving you with a file with tons of data to use, tons of information. So when you go back to edit, you will be able to go ahead and adjust your exposure, adjust your contrast, adjust your brightness, adjust everything that you would ever want to do in Lightroom or Photoshop. JPEG, on the other hand, is going to take that data. When you take that picture, it's going to take that data and it's going to shoot it to the card. But in the process, it is also going to bake that file. And what I mean by bake that file is it's going to take your white balance that you have set on your back of your camera. It's going to take your white balance and it's going to say, okay, this is the white balance for that photo. It's going to take all of your other data and it's going to strip away the stuff that the camera doesn't feel is necessary to have in your file, leaving with you a smaller file. Thus, when you take it back and process it through your Lightroom or whatever other software that you are using, it's going to not give you the same amount of data to be able to correct it via your sharpening, via your exposure, your contrast, and whatever else in Lightroom or Photoshop, or Camera Raw for that matter. So let's explain why I think you should always shoot raw. And this is a controversial topic in the photography community, which I don't know why, but I think you should always shoot raw because it gives you all that data. If you screw up on that picture, if you're underexposed by 1-2 stops, you'll be able to bring that back in camera raw. With JPEG, you're not able to do that. Now, people are going to say, well, camera raw increases your file size twice over, or and you can have that JPEG file right there. It's a very small file. Yes, you can have that JPEG file, but you're not going to be able to get the detail of what you need to correct when you go back into Photoshop and Lightroom. And people are also going to state that your files are bigger, so it's going to take up more storage space in your computer. That is true, but storage is so cheap nowadays that everyone should be able to afford an 8 or 10 or 6, 8, or even 10 terabyte spinning drive. When you store your photos, you don't need the fast SSD storage. So if you're storing your photos on fast SSD storage, that is just a waste of time and a waste of space. When you archive your photos, you should be saving them on spinning drives, and you should be at least using a RAID. I think it's RAID 2. RAID 2, I think. You should be using a RAID 2 when you store your photos. That way you always have a backup. I always encourage people to have backups of all their files. I've shown on a previous video where you can back up your information online via a cloud service called Backblaze. It's great. It's perfect. I never have to worry about my photos being gone again. And it's unlimited storage for $5 a month, guys. $5 a month. I will leave a link in the description below, but let's get back to why I shoot camera raw and why I choose to shoot raw. So like I said, if you go ahead and you take your picture and you're overexposed, you can bring that back. You can always, always, always bring your pictures back when you're in RAW. In JPEG, you cannot do that. So I think it is very important. People also say that, you know, when you shoot camera RAW, it takes a longer time for the pictures to render into Lightroom. Yeah, it does. It does. But isn't your files more important than anything? Isn't your files, isn't the pictures that you take more important? And even if you don't know how to use Lightroom, Photoshop, or you don't want to, at least shoot RAW plus JPEG. Then you always have that RAW file to go back to, so if you ever decide to start shooting and using Lightroom, you can always do it. You can always do it. So if you want a picture that you can show instantly, use RAW plus JPEG. You have that option in your camera. That's what's so great about these digital DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. It gives us so many options to do whatever we want with our photos. And I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there about people that say they always shoot JPEG. Well, they're losing out on a lot of features and a lot of functionality. And as a professional, if you're not editing your photos in an image processing program such as Lightroom, shame on you. Really, shame on you. You should always bring your photos back to an image processor on your computer, and you should always make those final adjustments, because we never, and I don't care what anybody says, you never get your photo exactly right in camera. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. There's always something you can fix. There's always something you can do. Like when I shoot portraits. Okay, so I go into Lightroom, I make my minor corrections, such as my exposure, contrast, blacks and whites, all the basic composition. But then I also go in and I also correct for acne on people's faces and for many different imperfections in their faces and eyes and whatnot. Without Camera Raw, that's not possible. It is possible, but the photo just doesn't come out the same. It just does not come out the same. And there is some cases where you may have to end up shooting in JPEG for, let's say, a sporting event or whatnot, that they need the photos right then and there. As the action happens, they need to be able to post those photos right then and there, and you need to get them out as fast as possible. That does happen. That does happen, but you should always, 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 in that situation, that's why I always recommend when I pick a camera that you should always get a camera with 2 memory card slots, because then you can put your JPEGs on one and you can put your RAW files on the second. And people are saying, well, some people say, well, it's just too much work to go through 2,000 pictures. Why are you shooting 2,000 pictures in one sitting? Why? Really? Why? Why are you shooting 2,000 pictures? In an average photo session that I do, I say I shoot about 200 pictures. If you're motor driving your camera, you're not really focusing on the individual portraits and whatnot. If you're motor driving, if I can make a video if I can make a video out of your photos that you use, that's not photography, guys. That's not photography. That's just trying to be lucky, trying to get that good shot. And yes, there is times where you have to motor drive. Yes, there is, but very few and far between. So if you're gonna go and I can make a video of all of your pictures put together of the guy running down the field or the car racing down the track, you really need to take a step back and look at what you're shooting. You need to track that subject, and you need to choose the points where you want to shoot that photo. When that gets right into that frame that you want to shoot, that's where you want to do it. So there should never be a reason for you to come back from a photo shoot with 2,000 photos on your memory card. That's why I always shoot with a smaller size memory card, because it forces me to think about the pictures I take. When I shoot my fashion shows, the model comes out, I pick a point on the stage for everything, so it's always consistent. You always pick a point on the stage when the model comes out and they stop, and you click that photo. You go click, click, maybe 2 or 3 clicks, click, 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 just to make sure you get the right photo, because a lot of times they're either finishing their walk down the middle of the runway, they're either blinking, or they're going to do a spin, and you want to catch that spin as they're walking around. So it's always not 20 photos in a row. And every time, and I kid you not, I will always hear the photographers, they will do, why? You just took 20 shots of one person, and then you got to go back and you got to figure out which one you want, because you only want 1 or 2. You don't want 20 different pictures of the same person in the same outfit. So, in ending in this short video about camera raw, you should always shoot raw first and foremost. If you don't know how to use Lightroom or Photoshop, shoot raw plus JPEG and save the raw files for later, because as a new photographer, you may not know how to use the raw files to correct and whatnot. But eventually, you'll want to learn that. You'll want to get on your computer and you'll want to edit your photos. And that's the thing I find the most enjoying, is when you get on your computer and you look at what you've got and you edit those photos. And a lot of people say, you should only take about 2 to 3 minutes to edit each photo. No, take your time. Enjoy editing your photos, because that's what I like the most about photography. I enjoy editing my pictures, and with camera raw, that gives you the most quality of an image to be able to edit those pictures. Well, that's it for today, guys. That's my feelings on camera raw, and I'll see you in the next video. GuthriePhotographyOnline.com. I'm out of here.